Yo, tapping in real quick, something light, nothing major, peace and blessings and all that. You know what I'm talking about? Hopefully everybody's Sunday has kicked off properly, and your weekend's going according to plan. You know what I'm talking about? Hopefully everybody was able to enjoy them fights last night and find y'all way to a bag in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Those dogs were barking, and you already know how we feel over here in the doghouse at Fresh Start Mixed Martial Arts about parlaying up individuals over the -500 money line or above, or just ridiculously priced for absolutely no good reason. You know what I'm talking about? It is what it is. On to the next one. I do appreciate y'all for tapping in. I do want to take a moment real quick to apologize. I was supposed to go live last night for the main card, but once I got all caught up in my nephew's 22nd birthday, a couple drinks got thrown back and things just didn't go according to plan. You know what I'm talking about? So it very much so just is what it is. I do appreciate y'all for tapping in. And this video right here, this is the full card breakdown and predictions video for UFC Fight Night. Israel Adesanya versus Nassourdine Imavov is fitting to take place this Saturday evening in Saudi Arabia, going down in the AMB Arena. We have 13 fights to talk about, and I, for one, cannot wait to dive into it with y'all. I'll do my absolute best as not to hold y'all ear hostage for too long, but you already know how that goes, man. You know what I'm talking about? Let's dive into it. First fight of the night, we have Abdul versus Oki. Abdul's currently 15-4 up against opposition with combined records of 168 wins, 64 losses, and 2 draws. He's 29 years old, 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. Currently 0-1 inside the UFC, not including that Dana White Contender Series showing. He's taking on Oki, 9-2, up against opposition with combined records of 76 wins, 55 losses, 1 draw. He's also 29 years old, but 5'10" with a 73-inch reach, and currently 1-1 inside the UFC, not including his Dana White Contender Series showing. You know, this one's a bit iffy for me. You know what I'm talking about? Something inside me was pulling me towards Oki when the fight was slated. But, upon further investigation, I came to the conclusion that Abdul's the side for me. Undeniably been up against a higher level of opposition. 15-4 up against opposition with combined records of 168 wins, 64 losses, and 2 draws, compared to Oki's 9-2 up against opposition with combined records of 76 wins, 55 losses, and 1 draw. And you add into that Abdul's fighting out of Fortis MMA, and I feel like they're going to have him properly prepared for this matchup. Taking into consideration how Oki's last matchup went, they're going to put a proper game plan together for Abdul to, continue the trend in my personal opinion. Abdul is at a 2-inch height disadvantage and a 4-inch reach disadvantage, but I believe him to be the better all-around mixed martial artist for what it's worth, and with all due respect, fighting out of a better camp over there at Fortis MMA that's going to have him properly prepared. So give me Abdul. We are in the doghouse, so we're starting this off with a slight dog. I believe he's plus 116. You know what I'm talking about? So that's the first dog on the card for us, and that's how we gonna rock, man. At least me, anyway. We got Hami versus Jamal. We got some big bulls. Hami 3-0 up against opposition with combined records, 16 wins, 10 losses, 32 years old, 6'2" with a 73-inch reach. Currently 1-0 in the UFC. Jamal 11-4. Up against opposition with combined records of 80 wins, 12 losses. 29 years old, 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. Currently 2-1 inside the UFC, not including his Dana White Contender Series showing. I don't want anything to do with this fight, man. This fight is just is what it is, man. You know what I mean? These big boys, and I don't want nothing to do with these big boys in there throwing that motherfucking leather around. I'm taking Jamal, though. Jamal's the pick to go ahead and hand Hami his first loss. You know what I'm talking about? Send that ball home 3-1, improve to 12-4, and keep it moving, man. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. It is what it is. Moving on. We have Bogdon, 14-2, up against opposition with combined records of 85 wins, 42 losses, and 3 draws. He's 29 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. Currently 0-0 in the UFC, not including his Dana White Contender Series showing. I don't like to include that shit. don't mean nothing to me. He's taking on Lucas, 8-4, up against opposition with combined records of 82 wins, 41 losses, and 2 draws. Also 29 years old, 5'11" though, with a 73-inch reach, 1-2 in the UFC. And this was a tough one for me. I went back and forth, you know. Lucas does have 3 fights in the UFC. He's 1-2 though. You can't frown on him about losing to Yo Anderson Brito. We could do without the Jekka and the Sam, whatever his name is, win. It's nothing to call home about. It is what it is, man. Bogdon's going to be the pick for me. Not exactly sure how Bogdon's going to go about getting it done. I feel like he's going to find the finish inside the distance via catching, clipping, and disconnecting Lucas from his consciousness. So I'm rocking with Bogdon. Jasmine versus Mora. That's how you say it, Mora Bueno, right? Mora Bueno Silva. Jazz versus Mora. Jazz versus Silva. We just gonna do it like that. Jazz 12-3 up against opposition with combined records of 102 wins, 40 losses, 1 draw. She's 35 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. And currently 6-2 inside the UFC, not including her Dana White Contender Series showing. Silva 10-4-1 up against opposition with combined records of 131 wins, 51 losses, 33 years old, 5'6" with a 66.5-inch reach. Currently 6-4-1 in the UFC, not including her Dana White Contender Series showing. She's out of shoot though box over there with Diego Lima, and Jazz is at what is that? Niagara top team. You know what I'm talking about? Either way you look at it, Jasmine's the pick for me. It's women's MMA. It's going to be highly competitive. It's going to be closely contested. I just have Jasmine edging it absolutely everywhere in every round. Jasmine's the pick for me. That's just simple work for me in my personal opinion, with all due respect to Mora Bueno Silva. You know what I mean? I had Macy Chason getting her up out of there. You know, I haven't been on the wrong side of her too many times. I don't think I'm going to be on the wrong side of her this time. Jazz is the pick. Moving on. We got Fariz taking on Mike. Now, Zaim is 16-4 up against opposition with combined records of 180 wins, 68 losses. He's 27 years old, 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. He's currently 6-2 inside the UFC. Mike's 11-2 up against opposition with combined records of 79 wins, 33 losses. He's 32 years old, 6 foot with a 72-inch reach. He's currently 4-1 inside the UFC, not including his Dana White Contender Series showing, fighting out of Fusion XL. And we already know Zaim's out of Kill Cliff. I'm taking Zaim as a dog, man. A lot of individuals that have been very solid and very well-rounded, and then, you know, have proven that they can be also very dangerous in certain situations, have attempted to come in there and rinse and repeat takedowns and implement an all-around body of work up against Zaim. Zaim is just able to do it better absolutely everywhere and edge them out, if not find a finish, you know, somewhere in the mix of all of it. You understand what I'm saying to you? I like Zaim. I like Zaim as a dog. I was all over Zaim when I saw this fight slated. I like Mike, and with all due respect, he just ran into a fucking roadblock. That's all. You're going to reach these potholes and these speed bumps and these motherfucking roadblocks at this level of opposition. You understand what I'm saying to you? And there's just no getting around it. I liked him when I saw the fight slated. I saw the money line, and I fucking loved it because he's an underdog. So, you know what I'm talking about? We rocking with Abdul is a slight dog. Jamal's a favorite. Bogdon's a favorite. Jasmine's a favorite. And Zaim is another slight dog. Now we got Terrence. Terrence is 15-7 up against opposition with combined records of 200 wins, 108 losses, and 3 draws. He's 30 years old, 5'10", with a 73.5-inch reach. Currently 5-4 in the UFC, and one of the most inconsistent motherfuckers you will ever see. He's taking on Damir, 14-7, up against opposition with combined records of 140 wins, 95 losses, and 3 draws. He's 38 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach. He's currently 4-5 in the UFC. He is the most inconsistent motherfucker that you'll ever see. You know what I'm talking about? 4-5 in the UFC for Damir, 5-4 in the UFC for Terrence, man. Terrence has an 8-year youth advantage, a 3.5-inch height reach advantage, and just 1 inch on the height. He's also got the power and the speed. He's just more dangerous absolutely everywhere outside of Damir finding a way to drag this one out without getting choked out or finished. I don't know how he gets it done. These are two of the most inconsistent motherfuckers you will ever see. 5-4, 4-5 explains it all for you with their UFC runs, and it just is what it is. Terrence is the pick though. Here we go, Shamil versus Thomas. Another fight I want nothing to do with. Shamil 13-1 up against opposition with combined records of 91 wins, 23 losses, and 1 draw. Shamil's 34 years old, 6 foot tall with a 78.5-inch reach. Currently 2-1 in the UFC, not including that Dana White Contender Series showing. He's taking on Thomas 9-2 up against opposition with combined records of 74 wins, 52 losses, and 3 draws. He's 29 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. He's currently 1-1 in the UFC, not including his Dana White Contender Series showing. And as much as I would like to pick Thomas, because I don't fucking like Shamil, Thomas got 7 knockouts, Shamil got 8 knockouts. I mean, they both know how to get it done. You understand what I'm saying to you? Thomas is, 5 years the youth advantage. He's 5 years younger, but he's also 4 inches more fucking shorter, and he's at like a 4.5-inch reach disadvantage. I just feel like Shamil's gonna get this one done. While Shamil has 8 knockout wins, he's got 1 knockout loss. Thomas has 7 knockout wins, he has 1 knockout loss. I think somebody's getting knocked out or it's going to the cards, and I'm gonna go ahead and rock with Shamil to be the one to get it done, man. I don't want anything to do with this fight though. Moving on, Muhammad versus the boy Khan. Muhammad 11-3 up against opposition with combined records of 96 wins, 35 losses, and 2 draws. He's 30 years old, 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. Khan is 11-3-1 up against opposition with combined records of 64 wins, 31 losses, and 1 draw. He's 31 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach, fighting out of Absolute MMA. We already know Muhammad is over there with Evolution Fight Team. Currently 3-1 in the UFC for Muhammad, my bad, and currently 0-1 in the UFC for Khan. And anybody who was tapped in knew we took old boy to get Khan up out of there anyway. Old boy, I think it was Marlon, however you say his name, he was the pick. Both of them was fresh off the Contender Series and all that. But yeah, I'm not fucking with Khan, man. I like Muhammad. Muhammad's solid. I get it, he just got submitted, but he got submitted by a young gat. You know what I'm talking about? That submitted him and then went on to beat Miles Johns before closing out the year. He's on a little tear. I'm not going to hold that against him. You know what I'm talking about? So Muhammad's the pick. Moving on, man. This is where shit's gonna get spicy, shit's gonna get dicey, and some of y'all gonna act like y'all motherfuckers don't like me no more. But it's all good, man. This is my big dog play. We got Ikram, 11-3, up against opposition with combined records of 166 wins, 66 losses. He's 32 years old, 6 foot tall with a 76-inch reach. He's currently 2-1 in the UFC, not including his Dana White Contender Series showing. He's taking on my homie Andre, man. Andre's 24-6 up against opposition with combined records of 265 wins, 94 losses, and 6 draws. He's 34 years old, 6'1", with a 78-inch reach. Currently 6-2 in the UFC, not including his Dana White Contender Series showing. And this is my big dog pick, just like Marab last week, motherfucker, or last night. This is my big dog pick. You ain't gotta like me, and you ain't gotta like the pick. You know what I'm talking about? I'm not going to argue it too much because I'm going to talk about it right now, and that's going to be that with that, man. It is what it is. It's my big dog pick. I'm not high on Ikram. Nothing about Ikram moves me or impresses me in any way, shape, form, or fashion, and I've been speaking about this. Individuals want to make a big scene over, him coming into the UFC and his only loss was the Khamzat Chimaev. Well, I watched that fight between him and Khamzat Chimaev about 1,000 fucking times, and it was fucking horrendous from both sides. It was horrendous from both sides. Majority of it was on the feet. The striking was just fucking horrendous from both sides, and Khamzat ended up getting the better of him. Ikram's trash in my personal opinion. I don't like him, man. If you show resistance, if you push it, if you push him, apply that pressure, you push that wrestling and grappling, you put him in compromisable positions. I got Andre getting him out of there via submission, man. And that's if he doesn't clip him and disconnect him from his consciousness, man. He's got a nice little 2-inch reach. You know what I'm talking about? 1 inch on the height. So they very, very properly sized up, man. I just think Andre's a bit more physically imposing. Definitely the better wrestler and grappler and jiu-jitsu practitioner in my personal opinion. I think he's getting Ikram out of there via submission, man. I don't think Ikram's going to survive for Andre to win via decision. Andre can crack too. He's no fish out of water on the feet. He can fucking crack. He has pop in each and every one of his individual shots. He uses them to set up his takedowns and his entries for his takedowns. Like, I like Andre, man. It is what it is. Ikram is 11-3 up against opposition with combined records of 166 wins and 66 losses. Andre's 24-6 up against opposition with combined records of 265 wins, 94 losses, and 6 draws. He's by far, you know, the better all-around mixed martial artist, in my personal opinion. It's my big dog play, man. You know what I mean? It is what it is. You don't have to like it. It's a big dog play. You know what I mean? Fuck with it or don't fuck with it. Run with it or run from it. It is up to you. You know what I'm talking about? But I'm rocking with Andre, man. Fuck Ikram. And if I gotta come back here and rub this shit in my chest, I will. But I didn't have to do none of that shit that everybody was screaming I was gonna have to do when he went in there fighting Bobby Knuckles. Had the nerve to go in there like he was gonna do something to Bobby Knuckles, man. The boy gets hit too many times on average per minute. When I ran that shit back and I looked at how many times Ikram got hit on average per minute, I said, this motherfucker might not last fucking 5 minutes. He might only be able to get hit a couple times by a Bobby Knuckles, man. Like, the defense, his offensive strike, he's a sloppy dude in my personal opinion, man. You know what I mean? But that's just me, and that's just my personal opinion, and to be determined. We shall see. You know what I mean? I'm rocking with Andre, though. Big dog pick. Saeed, 18-3 up against opposition with combined records of 256 wins, 51 draws, and 2 losses. He's 32 years old, 32 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. Currently 7-2 inside the UFC. He's taking on Venicius. Venicius is 21-3 up against opposition with combined records of 154 wins and 68 losses. 29 years old, 5'9" with a 70.5-inch reach. Currently 2-0 in the UFC, not including his Dana White Contender Series showing. And as much as I like Venicius and how good Venicius has looked, Venicius 21-3. Those 3 losses all come from Venicius being clipped and disconnected from his consciousness, man. Inside the distance. Saeed Nurmagomedov, in my personal opinion, is going to clip him, catch him, clip him, and disconnect him from his consciousness, catch him, clip him, and hop on him for the club and sub type situation. Or he's just going to grind out a decision by hurting him, you know, multiple times over the course of 15 minutes and putting him in a couple different compromisable positions on the feet and on the ground if it finds, and when it finds its way there. You know what I'm talking about? Saeed's the pick, man. Let's slide on over here, man. Heavyweights. Sergey versus Rosenstron, man. Sergey, 18-3, up against opposition with combined records of 198 wins, 110 losses, and 2 draws. He is 32 years old, 6'3", with an 84-inch reach. Rosenstron is 15-5, up against opposition with combined records of 284 wins, 96 losses, and 2 draws. He is 36 years old, 6'2", with a 78-inch reach. My bad, Sergey is currently 6-3 inside the UFC, and Rosenstron is currently 9-5 inside the UFC. Sergey fighting out of Eagles MMA and Rosenstron out of American Top Team. This is heavyweight MMA. This is going to be highly competitive and closely contested until it's not and somebody gets stretched. You understand what I'm saying to you? I don't think this one sees the cards. I'd like to think Rosenstron's going to get it done as a dog. He's, you know, he's got a route to victory, but I think he's going to get clipped, man. I think he's going to get caught, and I think he's going to get clipped. I think he's going to get disconnected from his consciousness. Maybe this thing goes to the cards. You know what I mean? Maybe he loses via split decision. But I don't think, something's just telling me Sergey's winning. So I'm going to go ahead and rock with Sergey. It's heavyweight MMA. It's one I don't want a whole lot to do with. Eagles MMA versus American Top Team. Proper game plans will be implemented. And they're both fucking dangerous. I can't sit here and say that one is more dangerous than the other. They are both fucking dangerous. Shar versus Paige, man. Shar is 15-0 up against opposition with combined records of 181 wins, 81 losses. He is 30 years old, 6'2", with a 73-inch reach, currently 4-0 in the UFC. Paige, 22-3 up against opposition with combined records of 357 wins, 123 losses, and 2 draws. He is 37 years old, 6'3", with a 79-inch reach, 1-1 in the UFC. This one's a motherfucker, man. You know, Paige can come over here late in the game, you know, later in the later stages of his career and catch wins over the Kevin Hollands, just like the Ritter did. You know what I mean? I put them in the same category. Now they need to fucking fight. You know what I mean? The Ritter and fucking Paige need to fight. That's the fight that needs to take place. You know what I'm saying? Because like Shar is gonna beat Paige, and then Paige needs to fight motherfucking the Ritter. Both of them just came over here, you know, with their best days behind them, in my personal opinion, past their primes, best days behind, you know, just the last stage of their career, and they figured they'd make a run over in the UFC real quick, just to say they did that shit and accomplished that goal. You know what I'm talking about? Like, they can beat the Kevin Hollands. They can beat certain individuals. But I think Shar is going to keep that O intact, man. You know what I mean? I think he's going to go to 16-0. Paige is going to go to 22-4. And that's just going to be that with that, man. The volume is going to be on Shar's side. And I don't know that Paige is going to be able to, you know, he couldn't get Kevin down. I think he went 0 for 3 on takedowns with Kevin. I don't think he's going to be able to get Shar down. I think Shar, the volume and the pressure implemented by Shar is going to be a lot more than that of a Kevin Holland, though. You understand what I'm saying to you? It's just a different fucking fight, man. And styles make for matchups, you know what I'm talking about? I wanted to light this motherfucker up and burn it down with y'all, but the way I got all these little motherfucking numbers written here and I'm running through this shit and I'm trying to do it a bit quicker, my thing just kicked on the little 15%, and I don't feel like going through the whole, you know, getting the charger and all that, man. So we gonna run through this motherfucker real quick, you know what I'm talking about? But Shar is the pick, man. And here we go. Main event. Israel Adesanya, 24-4, up against opposition with combined records of 135 wins, 116 losses, and 6 draws. He's 35 years old, 6'4", with an 80-inch reach, currently 13-4 in the UFC. Nassourdine Imavov, 15-4, up against opposition with combined records of 212 wins, 60 losses, and 1 draw. He's 28 years old, 6'3", with a 75-inch reach. Currently 7-2 in the UFC, not including the Dana White Contender Series showing. I really don't want anything to do with this fight. I just want to sit back, watch it, and then fucking enjoy it. You know what I'm talking about? But I'm rocking with the dog for the sake of a pick, man. And we can talk about it in the comment sections. You can chop in and try to sound off on me. It's all good, man. I like Izzy. And the numbers right there. 24-4 up against opposition with combined records of 435 wins, 116 losses, and 6 draws, compared to Imavov's 15-4 up against 212 wins, 60 losses, and 1 draw. Very respectable in its own right. Izzy has more fights. Izzy's out of 6 City Kickboxing. Imavov's out of MMA Factory. Izzy's still problematic, but Izzy had his time, and Imavov is, you know, creeping towards his title shot, and I don't think Izzy's gonna stop him. Unfortunately, I think Izzy's gonna be 13-5 inside the UFC. He's gonna advance to 24-5 in his career. Imavov's gonna go to 16-4, 8-2 inside the UFC. I'm rocking with the dog in the main event, y'all. And that's what that is, man. That's how we doing it. That is how we doing it. I am taking to kick the card off. To kick the card off, I'm taking a slight dog and Abdul. I'm following that slight dog with Jamal, who's a favorite, Bogdon, who's a favorite, Jasmine, who's a favorite, and Zayn, who's honestly one of my most confident picks on the card and just happens to be a dog. So that's the second dog. You know what I mean? Terrence, Shamil, Muhammad, big dog play on Andre. Saeed, Sergey, Shar, and I'm taking the dog in Imavov in the main event. So I'm taking the dog in the first fight of the night. I'm taking the dog in the last fight of the night. I'm taking the big dog in this middleweight showing. And I'm taking this right here, which is my most confident dog, and he's one of my most 3 confident picks on the card. He actually is like my most confident pick on the card. It's just crazy he's a dog, and that's Zayn. So that's it, y'all. That's UFC Fight Night. Israel Adesanya versus Nassourdine Imavov incoming this Saturday evening in Saudi Arabia, going down in the AMB Arena. 13 fights, man. I like, 9 favorites, 1 slight dog, 2 dogs, and 1 big dog. You know what I'm talking about? And that's how it's going down for this card. So it's Abdul, Jamal, Bogdon, Jasmine, Zayn, Terrence, Shamil, Muhammad, Andre, Saeed, Sergey, Shar, and Imavov. You know what I'm talking about? And that's that with that, y'all. I do appreciate y'all for tapping in. You know, hopefully everybody's enjoying a weekend, getting ready for these, NFL kickoffs and all that, and NBA games for all the degenerates out there that just like to get these, these degenerate plays in, roll these dice and see how they lay. Absolutely every fucking day in any way, shape, form, or fashion we are able to do so in. Best of luck with any and all bets and parlays. You know what I'm talking about? But that's that full court breakdown and predictions, man. That's all 13 fights. That's all 9 favorites, 1 slight dog, 1 big dog, and 2 dogs. That's how we rocking this week, man. You know, I'll be tapping back in a little bit later on to talk about the most confident picks on the card. And, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, whole lot of nothing, man. I appreciate y'all for tapping in. Stay tapped in. Peace and blessings.